Good evening and thanks for choosing Redwood News. I'm John Kennedy O'Connor. We begin tonight with breaking news. There's been a stunning leak from the US Supreme Court. A draft opinion shows a majority of the court is apparently ready to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion. Protests triggered by word of that draft decision are underway at this hour outside the Supreme Court building by pro-choice supporters. It's possible votes could change before the court's final opinion is formally released. The draft opinion, if it holds, would be the most consequential abortion decision in decades and transform the landscape of women's reproductive health in America.
I'm shocked. I hope that it was just a headline that wasn't true, but I think there might be some truth to it. And I'm hoping that protests like this bring some attention to the fact that America doesn't want to overturn Roe v. Wade, that there is support to maintain it.
New at 11, there's another big legal development unfolding tonight, and this one involves Humboldt County and its embattled auditor-controller. The state of California late today filing a lawsuit against the county and auditor-controller Karen Paz-Dominguez. That lawsuit says Ms. Paz-Dominguez has failed to comply with government-mandated financial reporting requirements. It asks a judge to fine Ms. Paz-Dominguez $10,000 and the county $2,000 for failure to submit financial reports on time. The suit also asks the court to order the auditor-controller to perform her job duties as required by law. Also new at 11, there's another lawsuit that could be in the making. It involves Humboldt County potentially suing the city of San Francisco over fentanyl overdoses. The Board of Supervisors tomorrow will discuss the threat of legal action against San Francisco, which law enforcement says is the major supplier of fentanyl to the North Coast. Supervisor Rex Bones says he's fed up with opioid overdose deaths, which now make up 10% of all deaths in Humboldt County. Bones cites the open-air dealing of fentanyl in San Francisco, which allows for it to be easily bought and transported up into Humboldt County. Bones' proposal comes as a drug task force agents today announced the 14th bust so far this year of local fentanyl dealers who they tracked to San Francisco to pick up shipments. This trio was intercepted along Highway 101 when they returned to Humboldt. Lacey Jackson, David Elliott and Octobriona Hoff are all charged with conspiracy to transport fentanyl for sale. Authorities seized 3 ounces of fentanyl along with a smaller quantity of meth from their car. Drug agents say the 3 have been regularly dealing drugs out of a hotel in Fortuna. Meantime, a convicted felon and her roommate are jailed tonight on charges they trafficked fentanyl and guns here in Humboldt County. 32-year-old Angela Lockwood and 37-year-old Daniel Lehman were arrested earlier today in the 700 block of Fickle Hill Road in Arcata. Authorities seized numerous weapons along with quantities of fentanyl and meth and a large amount of cash. Drug agents say Lockwood is a convicted felon who was out on bail from a previous arrest for illegal drugs and firearms. Residents are assessing the damage in another Arcata neighbourhood after wind gusts brought down a tree causing havoc. This is what it looked like this evening on Beverly Drive in Arcata. That's where those wind gusts took down a portion of a redwood tree, causing damage to a home there and blocking the road. That tree also brought down some power lines in the area that may have sparked a small fire. As heard a bit from earlier, Chief Meteorologist Dan Romano, we experienced wind gusts exceeding 30 miles per hour today in some areas. The Yurok tribe is hoping conditions will cooperate tomorrow for the release of the first 2 condors to fly over Northern California in a century. In all, the tribe will be reintroducing 4 young condors into their ancestral skies. The Yurok tribe will stream the release of the first 2 live on its Facebook page at 8 a.m. tomorrow, while the other pair will be released at a later date. The releases come after several years of planning and nearly 100 years after condors disappeared locally. Something else to look out for tomorrow, the largest cruise ship to ever dock in Humboldt Bay is set to arrive in Eureka. The Seven Seas Mariner will drop off a couple of hundred tourists around 8 a.m. to spend the day in Eureka before heading down to San Francisco tomorrow night. The massive cruise ship is over 700 feet and more than 48,000 tons. It's twice the size of the last big cruise ship to dock here in 2018. New at 11, California lawmakers are shelving a bill for now that would have shortened the work week from 40 to 32 hours at companies with over 500 employees. That bill failed to advance to a committee hearing late today, which ends its chances for passing this session. But, as reporter Chris Van Cleve shows us, despite the setback in California, dozens of companies nationwide are trying a 4-day workweek and finding surprising results.
When Emily Lutchins started at Uncharted in 2020, the Denver-based nonprofit was running an experiment. Could they maintain 100% productivity and pay while working 20% less?
It's an opportunity to take a step back and think about how you can be smarter with your work.
CEO Banks Benitez hired an analyst to track productivity and the impact of a 4-day work week on employees.
How has that changed how you guys do business?
It's changed everything. I mean, it reduced workplace stress, reduced burnout. We saw no reduction in productivity, and every Friday was off.
A recent survey finds 92% of Americans want a 4-day work week. Nearly 3/4 believe they can maintain the same workload, but may have to work longer hours to do it. Crowdfunding site Kickstarter is among the dozens of companies in North America and the UK trying out a 4-day week. Bill Shanninger from consulting firm McKinsey & Company.
The challenge is for the portion of the workforce that has gotten a taste of flexibility. Flexibility, full stop, is way more attractive than still the mandate, but on a shorter number of days.
For Lutchins, working fewer days makes balancing her career and being a new mom easier.
Could you see yourself ever going back to a job that was Monday through Friday?
It would be hard.
Living her new normal with more time for herself. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Denver.
Today marked the start of Wildfire Preparedness Week across California, and officials are using the occasion to remind all of us to take precautions as we head into wildfire season. While we haven't seen any major fires yet in our area this year, the state at Six Rivers National Forest are among the agencies training and preparing for when fire does break out. California is gearing up for what's expected to be another intense wildfire season, with officials noting that half of the state's largest and most damaging wildfires in history have occurred over recent years. Whether in the forest or at home, experts say there are steps you can take to help prevent wildfires.
So what we're asking for the public is when you're out enjoying your national forest lands, national parks, make sure you're doing your part. Put your campfires out, and even at home, make sure we have that 100-foot defensible space at a minimum. That's going to enable us as firefighters in the wildland-urban interface to help protect your houses.
Critical wildfire danger is intensifying tonight in parts of the southwest, while many in the Midwest are dealing with tornadoes. Our Mike Valerio has a look at the destruction.
Nature's fury caught on camera while driving into the path of a violent EF3 tornado, tearing a path of destruction through neighborhoods, unleashing winds up to 165 miles an hour near Wichita, Kansas.
People have lost everything in their life, and they're coming and taking whatever they can.
An outbreak of at least 7 tornadoes turning deadly when 3 University of Oklahoma meteorology students were killed in a crash on their way back from a storm-chasing trip in Kansas.
It's pretty shocking. I know we've got some really dedicated students here, but it's probably like the worst-case scenario you could ever imagine.
On the heels of this, tornadoes touching down in Oklahoma Monday afternoon as a new threat of strong tornadoes and large hail looms over the Great Plains through Wednesday. And as May brings on peak tornado season in the Southwest,
we're in a very dangerous situation.
It's a race against time during peak wildfire season. Fueled by powerful wind gusts, the Hermit's Peak and Calf Canyon fire are evolving.
Today with that wind event, rapid rates of spread, outpaced any of our production rates.
The fast-moving flames are now creeping dangerously close to the town of Las Vegas, New Mexico, where evacuation orders are now underway.
We've had some folks who are here staying in the shelter for the past 9 days or so. Yeah, it's really difficult for them.
Mike Valerio, Redwood News.
Coming up after this break, how are citizens evacuating the embattled Ukrainian city of Mariupol? And Speaker Pelosi meets with the Polish president. We'll be right back. Now to the war in Ukraine, where a long-awaited evacuation of Ukrainian civilians trapped inside an old steel plant in Mariupol is underway. And there are also new US moves to help Ukraine after US Speaker Nancy Pelosi and a congressional delegation made a secretive trip there. We have team coverage tonight of these latest developments with our Chris Wynn and Amy Kiley.
In the embattled Ukrainian city of Mariupol, a small window of hope as an evacuation convoy got underway Monday morning.
There could be as many as 100,000 in Mariupol in appalling conditions.
But the fate of the city's Azovstal steel plant, the last holdout for Ukrainian resistance there, remains in the balance.
A lot of expectation here that finally the agonizing tragedy of those caught inside Mariupol might be coming to end courtesy of this UN-escorted convoy.
New satellite images show how Russian military strikes have slowly decimated the plant over the past month. According to a Ukrainian official on the ground, more than 100 civilians were evacuated from the plant Sunday before it came under fire again. Also over the weekend, anti-Semitic statements by Russia's foreign minister drew condemnation after he said that Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler had Jewish blood. Israel's prime minister responding back saying, quote, his words are untrue and their intentions are wrong. Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine hopes to return to Kyiv by the end of May if conditions allow. A small number of diplomatic personnel have been working out of Lviv since mid-February.
We've been doing things through video conferencing and telephone and WhatsApp, and that's useful, but there's nothing like sitting across from interlocutors and talking to them directly.
Chris Wynn, Redwood News.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi meeting with the Polish president today after her talk with the Ukrainian president over the weekend. It's a show of support for a NATO ally. That's as Russia's war in Ukraine is prompting Sweden and Finland to consider joining the alliance.
It really shook both the people and the government, I think, in a way that nobody was expecting.
A member of the congressional delegation that traveled to Ukraine with Pelosi is giving more details about that visit. He says it covered U.S. aid for the war-torn nation.
We wanted to discuss with him within that really vast sum, what is the priority in terms of what weapons that he needs, what other assistance that he needs.
Back home in the U.S., lawmakers are preparing to take up a relief package for Ukraine.
Hopefully either this week or the next. Of course, if there is consensus, if there is an agreement, as you know, anything can go through the Senate through unanimous consent.
It's a $33 billion proposal from the Biden administration. Republicans have expressed support for some kind of assistance.
If there's another request for Ukraine, I think there's an overwhelming likelihood it'll be approved.
But
if somehow there is a desire to start picking it apart or having amendments to it, it could last longer. But time is of the essence.
Amy Kiley, Redwood News.
And weather is next. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A nationwide manhunt is underway tonight for an Alabama inmate charged with murder who's believed to have escaped with the help of a prison guard. As our Isabel Rosales shows us, the pair have been on the loose now for more than 72 hours.
An urgent scramble to find this missing Alabama corrections officer, now believed to have helped an inmate escape. Casey White was awaiting a capital murder trial.
Casey White is an extremely dangerous person.
Vicki White's own law enforcement colleagues now issuing an arrest warrant against her.
This is not the Vicki White we know.
Vicki White and inmate Casey White, who officials say are not related, vanished Friday. The sheriff says she broke protocol when she checked him out of jail by herself.
I'm sure that the booking officer didn't question it. She, after all, is her boss, and she coordinates all the transport.
She claims she was taking him in for a mental health evaluation, but authorities later discovered no such evaluation was scheduled. The sheriff believes her 17 years of corrections knowledge helped them go on the lam.
Whether she did that willingly or if she was coerced, threatened somehow to participate in this escape, not really sure, but we know for sure she did participate.
Her mother pleading for her safe return.
She's never done any, I doubt she's ever even had a speeding ticket. This is all a shock.
Vicki White was known as an exemplary employee with an unblemished record, according to her sheriff. After nearly 2 decades with the department, she was in the process of submitting her retirement papers.
Absolutely, you feel betrayed. I mean, all of her co-workers, we're all devastated.
Isabel Rosales, Redwood News.
And after our final break, Chief Meteorologist Dan Romano's here with a last look at the weather outlook. We'll be right back.
As we head into tomorrow, we're going to warm up nicely. Temperatures are going to rebound into the 50s, 60s, and 70s across the area. This is what you can expect. 60 degrees along the coast. It will be a bit blustery once again in the afternoon, but away from the coast after the frosty start, temps into the 70s.
Wow, thanks, Dan. Before we go tonight, you've probably heard someone say McDonald's burgers would survive an apocalypse. Now, you might want to add the restaurant's fries to that list too. Take a look at this. A couple says they found a bag of McDonald's food from 1959 in the wall of their home during a renovation project. These fries, which still have a good bit of colour to them, are surprisingly sturdy. If you don't recognise the mascot on the bag, that's Speedy. The couple aren't sure what they'll do with the decades-old grub, but are open to selling the preserved fast food fries, presumably to Burger King.
You know what? I bet you somebody on eBay is going to spend like $1,000 or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I just don't want to hear about them having tried to eat them. That would be
Did they smell it all when you...
Oh, no, please. Eric will be here with Redwood News Morning with Aurora, and Dan and I will be back tomorrow at 5. We'll see you then.
Take it easy, everybody.